Welcome to the Pause It Podcast. I am Dr. Sam, and with me, as always, is Dr. Robert. Dr. Robert, how are you doing?
Hey, how you doing, Sam?
I am doing really well. We have two guests today. My favorite. I always love having guests, which is so wonderful. And so our two guests today are Ali Ganjavian and Mary Chestak from Moggie, which is a health tracker device for cats. And I'm really, really excited to talk about this because cats are a wonder at hiding when they're sick. so, so I think this is going to be a really fun thing to talk about and learn about and kind of share with our listeners. So welcome, guys.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for having us.
So if you guys wouldn't mind, usually we like to just kind of start by learning a little bit about kind of each of you individually, how you guys came to know each other and get involved with the Moggie tracking health tracker device, and just a little bit of the backstory, and then maybe the why. You know, what is it, the problem that we're trying to solve, and kind of delve into that just a little bit. So whoever wants to go first, there's no, right or wrong answer. So jump in there.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for having us on the show. I'll take it away and just share a little bit of backstory. We're curious people that are driven by big problems. And sometimes some of the most exciting problems tend to be unresolved just because they're the fringe of different industries, like the fringe of technology and pet care. Like, how do you resolve something? How do you look into something? And those are the problems that we're typically excited about. And this is what got us excited about Moggie, how to enable these amazing, unique relationships, looking ahead at the world that we believe is very much driven by growing relationship with pets. There's more pets in the world every day, and in some cities there are more pets than there are children, and that is the growing tendency.
Mm-hmm.
So how might we as a team come together to be able to resolve some of those challenges is really what led us to where we are today.
I love that. I think ultimately so many things, if we can just have some real genuine curiosity about the world around us and how to fix some of those problems, especially where you kind of end up empowering people to really do good and maybe fix a little bit of heartache at the same time, is a really good thing. So how about you, Mary?
Yeah. And I think just building on to what Ali's saying, kind of curiosity, complex problems, and even kind of going back to like our relationship with pets. And I think what we've seen over the past, since COVID hit, it's like, pets are these babies. How do we take care of them? And how do we take care of them on a very, very emotional basis? And I think when we started thinking about Moggie, there's science, there's data, technology, but it's also just how do we take better care of, essentially our family members. And I think we've seen that really come to life over these past few years and everything we're kind of seeing in the market. So when we thought about, what are some of the pain points we're seeing? How can we kind of help pet parents? It's, again, coming back to cats and that they're mysterious creatures.
They are little aliens living among us. That's what I always tell people. Way more complex than people give them credit for. I think anybody that gets a cat thinking this is going to be a really easy pet is really wrong.
Yep, I think they always think like, oh, I don't have to take them out all the time. They use their own litter box. They have self feeders. They can almost be self sufficient if you get enough technology and you don't have to actually worry about them. They can take care of themselves. But I think people don't recognize that that's when things happen because we're not always watching them. We don't know how much they're eating. Dogs, the nice thing is when you take them outside, if they're going to the bathroom, how their stools look, how their health is. Cats, you may not know sometimes because we have so many things that are automated for them. And I take it one of you guys has had a cat in your life, or is that an inspiration for a lot
Currently
of
has one.
currently has one.
Yeah. And I was going to say maybe even, kind of having a passion for animals, but also not having a cat before and being a first-time cat owner. I think when Ali and I met, I was kind of like, I went through this exact experience. Like, what could I have done? So we find when we're talking to pet parents, it's either what could I have done, or, I do have a sick pet. What could I do better? And so that was kind of exactly my case. I moved to New York and I was like, I want to help, but I live in a tiny apartment where I cannot fit lots of dogs. So what can I do with cats? And I fostered a cat, and I was like, I don't really know where to start. I know the basics. And as kind of I was started taking care of him, there was signs that I know now because of the experience. But you know, as just a first time candidate, I wouldn't know, like the way he was eating differently, right? The way he was like hiding more. I'm like, yeah, yes, cats do hide. But you just kind of don't have that visibility. And again, maybe you would have, as with a lot of experience with cats, but this was kind of just my first cat. And so kind of knowing, you know, Ali's story and kind of what we're trying to do here and looking on my experience, I think that's ultimately also kind of what we're trying to solve for is, you know, there's just a lot of questions that we don't know with cats, and how can we kind of learn more?
Mm-hmm. So do you have a cat right now?
I do. He is named Mr. Mustache Tuxedo. Any of the vets I've been to, they either drop the Mr. or the Tuxedo. Or, you know, I say you got to say his full name.
Sure.
But within the team, we've just dumbed it down to MMT. It is a little it's a little bit easier. Yeah, he has a little white mustache and a white tuxedo, so he needs the formal Mr. Mustache Tuxedo. Yeah, and just when I decided to adopt him, again, we know kind of dental issues are really big with cats. And so again, just being a first time cat owner, having kind of no background on that, nowhere to kind of also have the answers, and going to the vet and finding that out too late. Again, now looking back on that, I was like, yes, he was eating differently. Yes, the way like he was eating his food, right? But again, to me, and knowing something like dental disease is big, that just, you know, combining all those factors, obviously kind of went through the struggles of that. And, you know, that's what we're trying to kind of prevent and solve for too, you know, both for cats and the way they're taken care of. Yeah.
Right.
What's your cat name?
Me. So I actually do not have a cat right now, but we did at one point in time. So we had this outdoor cat that we were taking care of. And we ended up catching him and, you know, like neutering him and doing all his stuff. He didn't end up really taking very well to being domesticated. So he continued to be an outdoor cat. But he also had a very special name. His name was Sir Sparkle Tree Flower. And I agree, he was knighted. So I don't really know how you could refer to him without, you know, his sir
Yes.
at the beginning of
Yes.
his name.
Yes.
So I understand why you have to use their entire name. What about you, Ali? Do you have a cat?
No, I don't have a cat at the moment, unfortunately. I've had up to 7 cats in the past, but at the moment I don't have a cat. I have a son who's rather allergic to pets.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
I'll be honest with you, that's actually why I don't have a cat as well. Because not anyone that lives immediately in our house, but my mother and my brother-in-law and like several people who come and stay with us quite often are allergic. And I told my mother we were gonna get a cat, and she was like, "Do you never want me to visit?" So I got a little bit of the guilt trip going. But now, you know, there's the live clear food. So if that bears out to work so well, then maybe we'll end up getting a cat at some point.
And your
just
husband was
feed them
like,
live clear.
your husband at this point, or your partner at this point was, let's get several cats.
Yeah, he was like, this isn't so bad, actually. Just kidding. He loves my mom. They get along great.
Paul's wonderful. We all love Paul.
No, but my kids are actually like really angling for a cat right now. But we have 2 guinea pigs, and I'm like, you know what? I really don't want the guinea pigs to get eaten by the cat at the moment. So maybe once the guinea pigs have left us, then we'll move on to a cat.
And so how did you guys end up meeting?
So great question. We were introduced to each other, basically driven by passion. What we were developing, someone said, you know, you guys have to meet. These are ideas that you know, the idea that we're kind of in the creation period of the idea. Someone said, you know, you have to meet, and we were introduced, and we hit it off professionally, and one thing led to the other, and we are where we are today. So it's yeah, quite straightforward.
Are you guys both in the same city? Or are you guys far away from each other? I'm confused of where you guys are.
Yeah, so Mary's in New York and I'm in London, so really convenient. Yeah.
You know what? I love both of those cities. I am also from New York, but you're not from New York, Mary, are you?
No. So I moved to New York in now 2017 from Toronto. So that's why I say I identify friendly Canadian first. You know, I just found my way where everyone loves cats and dogs in New York. So yeah.
That's very
Canadian
cool. I'm
first.
originally a New Yorker, but I'm in the Midwest, and he's a Midwesterner who's in California. So we're all over the place right now.
I like the weather better out here, but I'd love to go to London sometime, so I might hit you up there at some point, Ali, because I'm a big soccer fan. So when I do, I'll come hit you up and try and watch a couple games if I can.
Yeah, definitely. Please do.
Yeah, I love London too, so that's wonderful. So then when you guys were kind of, starting to work together, basically, I guess if you could kind of maybe say, you're starting like big problems. Like, what was the big problem? What was it that you were trying to fix at that point in time?
Yeah, so I think the big problem that we've been working on for several years now is to uncover some of the changes in behavior that we see in cats, uncover them and really kind of draw light on them. Cats are incredibly good at two things, right? They're incredibly good, as we said already before, at being autonomous, but they're also incredibly good at hiding their illnesses. And they've developed over time to be able to be more resilient in nature, because naturally in nature, natural habitat, if you look vulnerable, then you're more susceptible to other prey.
Right.
However, the complexity that presents us as pet parents is that we can't identify those changes in behavior in the same way we can with a dog. A dog is much more communicative in terms of its physical and vocal behavior, that we can identify changes all the way from his or her nose to the way they wag the tail to the way they as you said before, when you go out and you take them out. Whereas a cat, thanks to their independence, we can go away for a weekend, but unfortunately we don't know what they've been doing. Now, what we set out to do is to basically, with technology, bring that to the surface and track those changes in behavior and provide insights. What we found really interesting when we were doing this early stage research was that actually over 80% of cat diseases manifest changes in physical behavior. Like, just give an example, right? So we might have a cat at home, Mr. Mustache Tuxedo, for example, and Mr. Mustache Tuxedo will start jumping less and less progressively over time. When I say jumping less and less, I don't mean yesterday he jumped 25 times and today he didn't jump at all. I'm saying yesterday he jumped 25 times, next week he jumps 20, the following week he jumps 18, the following week after that. And before you know it, 6 months have gone by and he's actually not jumping at all. Now, those changes in behavior become really easy to present back to the user when you're tracking them, but incredibly complex to identify if you're not watching your cat 24/7. And that's precisely the kind of behaviors we bring to the light, bring to the surface. So jumping, sleeping, resting, eating, litter use, grooming, 10 different behaviors that really allow us to map out. What is important is that we're not a substitute for the vet. That's not what we do. We're an insights tool. So it's empowering you, as you said before, as a pet parent, to be able to make better decisions. So you have perspective, you have that experience that you're looking at on your product, on your app, and the app tells you this. And I think it's just for clarity of the listeners, we've created a product which is a hardware, which in the most simple terms, it would be more like a Fitbit for cats. And there's an app which basically displays that information. And this is like the data side of the language. Like, hey, the problem is, how do we uncover more, activity-based insights from our cat to our user, so they can ultimately act early, make decisions early, and improve the longevity of their cats.
Right. Yeah. And I think one of the biggest things that I do notice is twofold. One, so depending on the personality of the cat, right? So there are some cats that live their entire life in a different part of the house. You know what I mean? So truthfully, like, the owner they may be doing all those things every day, all day, but the owner couldn't really tell me on a normal day, what does your cat do all day? Well, he hides. He doesn't really hang out with the rest of the family. So that's normal for him. I don't actually know what he does all day, is like an answer you get way too frequently when they come in at death's door, because they're like, I really didn't know. I hadn't seen him, but that's not abnormal for me with him. Number one. Number two, a lot of people have multiple cats. So when weird behaviors start to happen, they may blame the wrong cat, or they may say, I think it's this cat. It could be this cat. I don't really know. And so I think if you did have some sort of like idea of what's normal for them in a way that's not subjective, right? Because that's the other thing. We start to think we're seeing something wrong, and then every time we see something, we attribute it to the thing that we've already decided is wrong. So a lot of times that will lead us down the wrong, like, oh, hey, this actually isn't the cat that's, you know, X, Y, or Z problem. It's actually the other cat, and this one's been sort of blamed for it. And so it would be extremely helpful to be able to know what's normal and watch those things as they change in real time.
And I think there's financial implications to this as well that I think people don't recognize, because just as you were saying, Sam, I've had an owner actually bring in all three of their cats because someone wasn't doing well to the
Right.
ER, but they didn't know which one. So we had to do tests on all three of them. So normally it'd be easy if you had something like a health tracker say, all right, this is the one that's the problem. But we had to run blood work on all three tests, and that's between on an ER visit, that's a $1,500 visit.
Oh, yeah.
In some cases, if you actually find the problem, and then you got to treat the problem if it's a serious one. But then again, also, I think the beauty of what you guys have developed, and we'll get into more hopefully with this in just a second here, is that you can determine they're sick before they're very sick. And that gradient where a lot of cats, for example, get chronic kidney disease as they get older. And their creatinine, which is one of their values, may be lower, but might be slowly increasing over time. But you can catch it when it's at 5, for example, instead of when it's at 13. That's saving 2 days of hospitalization. That's a huge marker for saving owners money. So that's why when I heard you guys speak at the Pet Care Innovation Summit, which you guys also won an award, which we should definitely talk about. I think it's just it's an awesome tool to not only help pet owners, but veterinarians as well. So kudos to you guys in the first place. I think it's an awesome thing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So what are the things that it tracks? Because I know you kind of briefly mentioned it, and then maybe if you don't mind talking a little bit about like the design of it, really, like how wearable is it? Can you have more than one cat on the same app? Those are some things that I think would be really helpful for people to kind of understand.
Yeah, so right now we track 10 behaviors. So walking, jumping, resting, sleeping, playing, grooming, eating, drinking, and litter use. And so those are continuously evolving and getting added on to. And then you kind of mentioned in terms of, I think like the hardware itself, right? So kind of, we say kind of the first cat only. Everything we've done is with the cat in mind. So thinking about like, again, technical things like battery life. We want to promote the cat's independence. Size. We know that the cat's neck is much more fragile and, kind of what exists for dogs. And then we also know if once you get one cat, you just keep adding them. And
they're like potato chips.
I think we've talked to the most. I think she had like 14 cats, and I was like, you are the winner so far with number of cats. But kind of understanding those things in mind, same thing. What we've done is kind of created the base station that collects all the data, and that can kind of connect up to 100 devices. We haven't heard of anyone having 100 cats yet.
Wow.
But the idea again is just to facilitate something that's kind of seamless. So the actual tracking, which sits around the cat's neck, around the collar, that's kind of independently by cat to track their unique activity. But on the collection side and the interface that the user gets, everything is kind of all through the one device. So you have the cats, that's kind of all in one interface.
And I saw on one of the like frequently asked questions, you can like schedule things for your cat, right? Like medicine and stuff like that. Is that right?
Yeah. So one of the things we're kind of trying to do is balance this all this data that sits behind and is really complex with kind of what a user sees and what would be helpful for them. So what we've done is include like kind of tips and recommendations. Like I was saying, like I didn't know about this dental thing, or I don't know how to do this because I've never had a cat before. So kind of a scheduler that lists of, maybe your cat actually does need the flea and tick, even though it doesn't go outside, or things like that might not be kind of knowledge. So kind of reminders, a schedule, all the medical history, breed, age, kind of any previous illnesses, having that kind of all in one place. as kind of, again, like you said, that baseline, and then seeing their activity, how that changes specific to that cat. So kind of, again, having that everything in one place in order to kind of help you make better decisions along with your vet too.
Yeah. No, I think that's really helpful, because I do think a lot of times people are looking for information and maybe not always looking in the best place for information. They're maybe Googling things and then getting a lot of conflicting information and stuff like that. So certainly it's nice if you can have like a sort of like a trustworthy, like, hey, this is good information, and go to your vet too. Not like we're replacing the vet, but like to work together, because honestly, that information, I can't tell you how many times I ask, like, well, when were they last normal? And that is actually one of the hardest questions that people ever answer. Most people don't actually know the real answer.
Yes, and that's exactly I think going back to like where this came from, and it's kind of been nice to hear that from our customers, as well as we don't know how to interpret certain behaviors. We don't know when to go to the vet, and I think this risk is also compounded. I know that people just don't want to take their cat. We know that they go to the vet less frequently than dogs, right? That just compounds the risk of them already being these mysterious creatures, right? And then just another one, I think, is they want to know how their cat is doing when they're not home. Again, you see like how much you see that, how much your cat is hiding, So basically just these big question marks that we want to shed light on, and, just essentially promote a better quality of life for cats.
That's awesome. How long does the battery last?
1 month.
I'm just curious.
Yeah. 1 month battery life. And again,
Wow.
you don't want to be taking that on and off every single day. Let that cat hide. Let them do their thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's how you know that they're either normal or not, right? If you keep intervening, then you might not really get their normal rhythm.
Exactly.
Plus, you could be missing a whole bunch of time where you'd be, if you had to keep putting it, like my watch, I have to put it on the thing every night or else it dies. So
Now, when a pet or when a cat is sick, like what happens? Like, how does the owner know? Like, what's the big changes that they're like? How are they alerted?
Yes, so the product has 2 layers. One is a data layer and one is a natural language layer. I'm going to focus on the data layer for a second. So as soon as there is abnormalities or changes in physical behavior, like sleeping more, I'm just going to go to the most basic, is sleeping more than usual. You'll see on your dashboard that your cat is this unusual behavior. So we say average, above average, and below average. And because we're not the judges of if that's good or bad, sometimes cats sleep more in the summer. We just say it's above average. And we highlight this above average data so we can create awareness. Now, if the above average is consistently going above average, we say, warning, you should consult a professional to assess whether this is normal behavior. And they might say age, breed, and the medication it's taking is perfectly normal. And that reassurance is really useful. That's from a data perspective. From a natural language perspective, which we've developed to the service of our vision, which is really about enabling unique relationships. We understand that data is a useful tool and we can't improve what we can't measure. So that's really useful and necessary. However, to be able to strengthen our bond with our pets, this natural language offers us a message like text message like format of our cat sending us messages over the course of the day. And if you have a very quiet cat, it'll send you every few days. If you have a very chatty cat, it'll send you several a day. And let me just give you an example of a chatty cat. A chatty cat will send you a message saying, been out playing all night, had lots of fun, probably going to sleep. Why do we get that data from? Because we know how active the cat's been overnight. We know if it's been playing or sleeping or resting. And we know that this time of the day is normally when it goes to sleep because of the data we have from the day before. And it presents that to you in a message format. So it presents it to you like, hey, Rob, this is what I've been doing. And signs out cat, So it humanizes, but at the same time, it gives you a window, in the same way we communicate with friends or loved ones, presents information the same way. But it will also do the same if it's not feeling too well. Like I'm not feeling as good as usual. have been sleeping way more or haven't eaten anything a whole day. Hold on a second. So it's a message. So you don't have to be a scientist and looking at data sheet and going, hold on, let's just, so you can actually look at it and say, okay, cool. Like he hasn't eaten all day. What's going on? Oh crap, there's no food. Oh, there's actually something wrong. There's different drivers of that. But at least if I'm aware, as opposed to there's no food because I assumed you've eaten it. No, there's no food. There was no food here in the morning. Like, I'm really stretching the example. But that natural language layer really serves the purpose of our vision as well, about enabling those unique relationships and connecting back to that sense of better understanding, more empowerment, better decision making. I think there's also one thing we're always talking about, how Moggie uncovers potential changes in behavior, potential illnesses at an early stage. There is also a scenario which we don't talk as much, but is just as relevant, is that when a cat does go to a vet or does have a procedure, how do you evolve the improvement? It's also an upward journey. It's not just a downward curve, it's also an upward curve.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
when the cat comes back in again and says, actually, look, it's back to usual, great. Then you know that medication is working or that procedure's gone well, rather than like, its improvement rates are not as good as they should be. Something else is happening here. So again, it's empowering the vet in terms of how those improvements taking place.
Yeah, and because sometimes too, by the time the cats get to us, there are maybe 2 or 3 disease processes that we're actually dealing with. So we may see improvement in one thing, and feel really good about the fact that our, lab work is better, but we don't treat lab work, we treat pets. And so it is then really nice because sometimes people really don't know the nuance of, or maybe they were doing really, really well for 3 weeks after they got fluids, and they were in the hospital, and then it's starting to go back down again. And so instead of waiting until that critical mass again, like what Robert was saying, it's like we could get in there a lot faster, especially in the case of things like chronic kidney disease. But it is interesting because I did actually have a set of cats where one had hyperthyroidism, the other one had chronic kidney disease. And so they were both losing weight. And the owners didn't, I don't think, realize that one was eating the other one's food. The other one wasn't eating as well. And so it was kind of like a puzzle that got put together, that I was just thinking about that situation. I was like, oh, that probably would have been useful to have known. This one's eating more, this one's eating less, and this one's like crazy active and the other one's not. But a lot of the signs look the same, and that, but 2 old cats in a house, 2 very distinct disease processes. So it's just made me think of that.
Absolutely. I think that's kind of cool about it, because you can actually, like I said, we're talking like pre-diagnosing, but following up afterward, I think that's huge, even for a data perspective.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not sure if you guys have ever gotten to these conversations yet. I'm sure you have, because you guys are very smart people. But being able to track the effectiveness of medications long term is something that'd be huge for a lot of companies, because like, let's see how effective it is. You can use those data points and actually have objective values to go off of, and even just give that information back to veterinarians and saying, hey, like my cat's doing better. That's I guess I'm speaking for the ER side of things. Sam, you might know better, but from like ER, I see them once, so like I give them some medications and I hope they get better, because most of the time they go back to their vet at that point, hopefully. But we don't always see how our patients do afterwards, so have like more of an objective scale of how they're doing. I think it's awesome. So there's so many problems you guys are helping solve here with, obviously you had your primary focus, but there's so many extrapolations of it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and maybe just building off of that, that's kind of, we're hoping to contribute to these kind of different areas as well. Ultimately, I think we're hoping to have like just a better window into the health of the cat. So kind of capturing that from litter box to bowl, like where else can we improve and provide services, with the purpose of early detection management. So again, like we're talking about the vets, is there personalized diets that we can track? Again, they, can we give them a certain prescription and now their joint pain is better? Or like you said, for like therapeutics development, or as the pet is going through like vaccine cycles. And, even something as kind of research that's being done specifically in the feline space, like for certain diseases, right? It's kind of, again, beyond kind of in the household, we kind of want to be able to contribute to these different areas as well.
Yeah, especially because our sample sizes, like whenever we're getting data, they're very small. And a lot of the research isn't done in cats, actually. Like we use so many more things off label for cats that we're just kind of like, we think this works. You know what I mean? I mean, a lot of it is we obviously can see over time, you know what I mean, with our experience, but then also too, um, we got into this when we were talking about, I forget what we were talking about, Robert, but just like in my little enclave, I see what works in my hands and I know what works in my area, my region. But then, you know, there might be some really cool thing that Robert's doing that I'm not aware of because we don't really have just this really vast amount of sharing of data and stuff like that. And I don't mean people's like personal data. I mean like, you know, the information about cats and the breed and the, you know, general age and things like that. It's like very useful thing that would be really helpful in veterinary medicine in general.
And I think I'd like to ask, how did you guys come up with the name?
So Moggie,
This is a
Moggie,
good question.
yeah.
That-
So everyone knows what a mutt is, but the word Moggie in British English is equivalent to a mutt. So it's like a non-defined breed of a cat. So that's what Moggie means. It's used very commonly in Australia, New Zealand, and in England, and obviously not so much in America.
And that's probably why I had no idea. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's actually funny because when I was like looking for your website, that came up and I was like, I wonder if it has anything to do with that. So that's great. That's really what it is. I love that. Um so how long have you guys been doing this, and you know, like where can people find you and all that fun stuff?
So we've been doing this for over more than 2 years now. It's quite a complex thing to develop.
Oh yeah.
From a technology perspective, it's hardware, it's firmware, it's software, it's front end, it's machine learning. I mean, it's quite a sophisticated thing, and we've been working on this for the last 3 years, really solidly. We recently launched to in pre-order last quarter, so quarter four. So excuse me, we launched quarter one, pre-order quarter one 2023.
Wow.
And there's a good amount of people have joined the community and have got applied for a pre-order and have paid for a pre-order because we did initial crowdfunding to be able to really just diagnose and observe what the market wanted. We're delivering product in quarter one 2024, so we're really excited.
Awesome.
Yeah, very exciting time. So folks can go to our website and there is a wait list because there's been quite high demand of the product. So you can sign up and apply, get a pre-order, and then it'll get delivered to you in quarter two, more than likely. And then everyone can do that on Moggie, www.moggie.me, which is the main platform where which is our website. It's also a place where you can actually visualize and see the product, get exposure to what the app looks like. And you can go to the App Store and download the app today just to get a flavor of what that product experience looks like. Obviously, you can't connect your device, but you can still access some of the tips and recommendations as well as use some of the scheduling functions. So yeah, that's a little bit of an overview of how long we've been working on it and how excited we are about the product going to market and contributing to this giant leap for catkind.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting. I'm actually not surprised that you guys have a wait list. I feel like there's a lot of people who would be really interested in this. This is kind of unlocking quite a mystery for a lot of people, the secret life of their cats. So that's really wonderful. If anybody ever has any questions, you know, when they want to get to you guys through us, they can always email us at podcast@mybalto.com, and we'll definitely send stuff your way. And we're really excited to kind of put this stuff out there, and I'm excited to be able to tell people when they come in to the clinic, especially kitten owners, that this is even an option, because up until now it hasn't been. So it's very cool.
Yeah, I think this is awesome, guys. I think honestly, and maybe you can explain real quick, what was your award you guys won at the Pet Care Innovation Summit? Because honestly, you guys had, if I remember correctly, you guys had a commercial almost to start off your presentation. That was you guys, correct? Is there a way to find that video? Because honestly, that video is adorable. I think it's like one of the funniest videos I see that like advertises your product but explains it really well. So hopefully it's on moggie.me. Was it just moggie.me? Honestly, that's one of the best videos that caught my attention right away. So wonderful marketing on your guys' side.
Good job.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I mean, the story is just telling the story, right? The real story of the real situation. I think cats are very good at they're very good at telling their own stories on the internet. So all the credit goes to Benjamin, who's the main actor in that video, and that can be seen on our website just as you land on our website. So hopefully you enjoy it, and ultimately hope it makes you smile.
Yeah. What was the award? Because I wasn't there. You were there, Robert. What was the award you guys won?
Yeah, so the summit was a Pet Innovation Summit, and it was an audience selection for most disruptive product, and so it was it was a great honor, and it's those things as a young company, and it's very valuable to get user feedback and to get user recognition, but it's also really strengthening, gives you confidence to get industry recognition, and the occasional award just supports that boost to keep going, and reminds us that we're going in the right direction. So it's greatly appreciated.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, congratulations, and keep it up, because we really do applaud what you're doing. We like to pair technology with pet health. That's kind of what we're all about too. So that really means a lot to us. We kind of feel your pain on the getting all that stuff together and how hard it can be, but really like what you're doing, and you guys have a noble goal in mind, which we appreciate as veterinarians who just really want our patients to be healthy in a way that doesn't, cost the same as a mortgage. So we we really appreciate it. So thank you guys so much for coming. We really I'm so thankful that you guys took the time to talk to us, and we're excited to kind of put stuff out there, and excited about what you guys are doing.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much.
Of course, absolutely. This has been the Pause It podcast. Thanks everyone for listening.